What's going on, everybody? Gideon XL here. Just coming in with a little bit different video with the accursed team coming to the game. Um, for me, it's just something that I'm really digging. The team itself is a very strong demonic overtone, and that's just not my jam. It's just not for me, not my thing. And so I won't be covering the team on the channel. Not really, right? If there's something else that maybe we need to know about them, events and stuff like that, yeah, I'm open to that. But the characters themselves, I won't be developing. Reason why we decided to make this video is because I was watching another content creator and I did see a couple people in the community asking about the team itself. That do we see an overtone? And unfortunately, we do. Unfortunately, we do. There's going to be things like this. There's going to be teams like this, and the good thing about a game like this with Marvel Strike Force is you don't have to participate if you don't want to, right? They're a Crucible team. Crucible is a player versus player, right? It's one-on-one. So for me, if I opt out of the team, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt my alliance. I'm not going to hurt anything like that. I know sometimes things like this are disappointing, right? Because many of us who maybe reject things that have really strong demonic overtones, things like that, spiritism, those of us who kind of reject that, Marvel, Star Wars are many times two things we can do, kind of nerd out, right? Because there's not a lot of that in the franchises, but there are. There are some. Typically speaking, there's not a lot of it, but there are some things. And so we just have to kind of tap out if that's what we want to do, weather the storm, and I'll pick it back up. Looking forward to the next team. But we just want to make sure that we talk a few minutes to talk about it because it's important. And we know there's other people in the community that feel the same way. And we just want to convey that, you're not alone. So whatever you decide to do, you got to do what's right for you. If that just means you put the game down and come back later, if that just means you skip out on the team, if that means that you're done playing Marvel Strike Force, however, whatever decision you have to make to stick by your principles and your life goals, things of that nature, that's important. And it's always important that we continue to move forward in that, right? Sometimes it's difficult to do something that is different. Sometimes it's difficult to do something that other people might not understand. Other people might have a problem with. There's peer pressure, which can be good, and there's negative peer pressure that can be bad. So we don't want to be pressured into doing anything that we're really not comfortable with doing. So again, for me, the question is, am I going to quit the game? In this case, no, I'm not going to quit the game. I'm just not going to build the team. So does that mean I'm going to lose Marvel Strike Force? And again, the answer is no, right? This is something that we've been dealing with this since the beginning of the game. So every time there's a controversy, every time there's an uproar, the game is going to continue. It's just going to look different. There's no need to get bent out of shape about it. We just have to figure out what the best path for us to succeed is, right? So I've been here before. I didn't build the Darkhold team when it came out for Arena. I didn't use them in Arena. Did I lose Marvel Strike Force? No, didn't lose Marvel Strike Force. Did I get knocked down in Arena? Absolutely. Absolutely, I did. Right? But the game changes. The game changes. The game evolves. The game grows. There will be something else you can use to get around. And over time, that's what happened. Right? I'm in the top 50 in my Arena shard right now. I got knocked down to 500s, low 500s at that time. And the interesting thing is it's still active. People down there were still fighting. They didn't have the team. So either that's people that didn't do things the way I did it, or there's people that were coming back to the game. There's still players that are active and they're still doing things. So it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. The uproar, sorry, right? Somebody brought out about what happened with Mephisto and the uproar that came then. How come there's no uproar now? Well, I think it's a little bit different. See, when Mephisto came out, they gave gear a name. They were going to call the gear in the game demonic gear. So up until that time, the gear doesn't have name. It's just represented by the color. There's green gear, right? There's orange gear. There's blue gear. That's just how it's been going. And then as things moved for some reason to Mephisto, all of a sudden there was going to be a change and they were going to call it demonic gear. Because of that, I think there was a little bit of a backlash and an uproar because you can't opt out of that, right? You can't decide, well, I'm just not going to use the gear because gear takes right. So it's for like a year. So we have gear tier 19, we got gear tier 20. If there's going to be 3 rings to it, that means there's going to be gear tier 21. So that'd be 3 years of this demonic gear. And then you're always going to have to go through that, right? Even for the next couple years, you don't just automatically push through. You're still going to have to stick with that. And I think a lot of people felt negatively about that. They didn't want that to be associated with their characters and what they're doing. And so because of that, people they spoke up. They spoke to Scopely and Scopely listened. They just changed it back to red gear and we're continuing on as normal, right? We're continuing on as normal. If you've been following my account, I didn't build Mephisto. I went through the Dark Dimension. I got the gear, but my Mephisto's sitting on my roster at level 1. Did I lose the game? No. It's fine, right? It's fine. Am I at the number 1 in my arena shard? No. I'm in the top 50. I can punch up into the top 30, sometimes into the top 20. And there's other people there that don't have Mephisto because he's not the character right now. Odin is. So the game is going to continue to move forward. You just have to decide what's right for you. So we do got a couple comments here. Please, no mayo. I agree with that sentiment. Hold the mayo. Hold the mayo. He's saying it's sound advice. Very important that people understand you have the choice and how hard you want to go. That's important. That's important because at the end of the game, it is just a game. At the end of the day, it is just a game. Again, everything has meaning. Characters have meaning. Words have meaning. Stuff like that has meaning. So you have to decide what's going to be good for you, what's going to be right for you. So please, no way. We had a couple more comments. We're hoping so. And it's just a mark of being right. We talk about being men on this channel, being a man, being a woman, being an adult, and getting things done. That's just the reality of life, right? Is the farther you go in life, the more maturity you gain, you realize that you have to make choices. And your personal character, your moral fiber, you understand how important that is, right? When we were younger, again, there's that peer pressure. Maybe you're in school and everybody's wearing a certain type of shoes, or they're wearing a certain sports team, or they wear their hair a certain way, and they try to put you in that box, right? People try to tease and speak negatively of you if you don't dress that way, right? Some of us couldn't afford to. I grew up poor. Some of us couldn't afford to. I knew a guy with a pair of Jordans. I wanted a pair of Jordans. And he would have them in his backpack. He came to school, he had them in his backpack. So he had his outside shoes that he would wear were outside for recess, and he would come into school, backpack, Jordans, put them on, put his outside shoes in, and that's how he would do his thing. Time to go out for recess, put his Jordans away, outside shoes on. He just kept them in his backpack. You know, it was cool. It was cool to see somebody with some Jordans, but you know, I couldn't afford them. Does that mean that there's something wrong with you? Does that mean there's something less of you? No, right? You come to realize those things as we get older that stuff is just outside stuff. It doesn't matter. The type of person that you are and who you're becoming is what matters the most. Developing a certain level of moral fiber, that also matters, right? Because that's how, again, as a man, you're going to pass that on to your family. You want to make my videos. A lot of times that's what I have in mind. I have children, I have grandchildren. This is all, a lot of this is just for legacy sake, in the sense that I'm just trying to leave a positive message. That's why we try to talk positively, leave some type of nugget there in the videos, right? This is mostly, that's my motivation is mostly that. So the same for them. I know they're dealing with things, and as you grow up, there's going to be that peer pressure. And so that's what I always told my children. There's always mistakes. You just don't want to make mistakes that cost you permanently, right? There's things we can do. There's mistakes we can make that have significant consequences, right? If you start getting involved in drugs and things like that as an early age, what happens? You form an addiction. If that starts early, I mean, we've seen the result, right? People that are on stuff for 30, 40, 50 years of their life before they can get out of it, which they needed early on. They needed that willpower to say no and to risk being rejected by the schoolmates and by their classmates. That would have saved them that 50 years of trouble that might have damaged their job, their marriage, relationship with their kids, their health. It could cost them their life, right? All that stuff. It came down to, again, a decision earlier on in life, having that moral fiber to do the right thing, right? Having that moral fiber to do the right thing. So we had some notes here. We had some notes. I just wanted to make sure we highlighted all the main points. So one of the things, when these things come up, sometimes again, people get a little upset. Sometimes people get a little sketchy. It's just a game. I get it. But when it comes to, again, these things like Marvel Strike Force, a lot of us, if we're nerding out, we come to Marvel because it has less of those characters. It has the characters. We understand that. It has the characters, but it has less of them. Star Wars, it has less of them. Whereas if we were involved in kind of like more of like a dark fantasy vibe or something like that, Lord of the Rings, I get it. It's cool stuff, but you're inherently going to run into this more often because of the context. So people get upset because sometimes we feel like, not that you're being bamboozled, but so we got Andor's going right now on Disney Plus. You got Andor. I'm still working on that. Haven't worked my way through it yet. And then we got Ironheart coming out after that. And so from the previews of Ironheart, it looks like the Hood, who we have here on the Accursed team, is going to be her villain. The Hood gets his powers from a demonic source. I'm very upset about that. Very upset about that. I was really looking forward to participating in the show, seeing what's going on, how they develop that character. But for some reason, we have to have a spiritism element. And I get the mindset, right? It's the dichotomy between science and mysticism, right? I get that dichotomy, but it's just unfortunate that we're going that route. Then some of us might have felt same thing. Bamboozled is the word that keeps coming to mind. I don't keep meaning to use that, but when Ahsoka came out, so you had the Ahsoka series, and we're going through, and everything's moving along, then all of a sudden, right, one of the main characters, she's a Night Sister, so now we're getting into sorcery and things like that, and zombies. Like, this is Star Wars. Like, what's going on? Same with the Acolyte, right? We're gonna find out, how Darth Plagueis, like, how did he come to be who he is, and we wanted to learn that story. And same deal, we got sorcery and witches. And we're like, what? This is Star Wars. What's going on? So those are the things where people kind of get upset. And so then Scopely, I do want to say this. I do want to say to Scopely, thank you for making the team a Crucible team, because once again, it's not something we have to do every day. You can decide to opt out. I won't have the strongest tool available. I won't have the strongest tool in the toolbox, but I can opt out. And that's going to be the truth for the majority of the game modes, right? The place that would be a concern is probably a raid team. So I would encourage Scopely, please, to stay away from these type of things when we talk about our raid teams, because raid you have to do every day. Raid you have to do every day. And so then that wears on a person's mind, it wears on a person's conscience on a daily basis. And it might encourage them to opt out. And they would have to opt out of the game then, because raids are an everyday thing. I think that was part of what happened with Marvel Future Revolution. I don't know if you're familiar with that game, Marvel Future Revolution. It's gone now. It is discontinued. There was definitely some shady dealings with the management style of the game, right? We talk about games being greedy. They might have been a little too greedy. But one of the problems, I think, in my mind that occurred is their first expansion. I believe it was the first expansion, right? So you went through the whole game. The game is kind of like a action RPG, right? You had your guy and you took him through the levels. There were bosses that would spawn and stuff like that. It's like an old school RPG game. It's real time, a massive multiplayer MMO. So that appealed to me. if that game was still active, because I was playing both, I'd have been playing Strike Force and I'd have been playing Future Revolution. I've been playing both. Well, you get all the way to the end, and then they did their first expansion. And the first expansion that they did, they had, as I recall, I could be mistaken, but I just remember the first expansion was the Dark Dimension. And then you had Hela, Mephisto, and Dormammu as the three main personalities, the bosses, and they're fighting for control. So everything started to revolve around, again, demons and stuff like that. And it's the first expansion. So that's max level. So that's where you have to do all your farming. That's where you have to get your gear. That's the type of stuff you had to, do. And it's until they released another expansion. And I believe the game shut down before that. So I honestly believe that part of the issue with that is people just silently, right? You get that silent attrition. People just don't want to be a part of it. And they slowly just kind of walk away, right? And so we don't want that to happen to Strike Force. So I'm just begging Scopely. I mean, you gotta treat everybody, and there's individuals that enjoy these type of characters and the symbolism and whatnot. It means different things to different people. So you got to have characters like this. I would just again ask Scopely, please, not to put it in a raid situation. And if they did, you do what you got to do. What it would probably mean for me, if it was a raid situation, is I would have to find another alliance, because I love my alliance. My alliance is great. They're just hardcore, go hard, try to beat everything, right? So the goal would then be to 100% the raids, meaning you would need the new raid team. And so I would be stopping them from doing that. But again, it's not the end of the world. You just adjust. I'd have to make adjustment. I find a different group, and things would be fine. Okay, things would be fine. So I think in both those situations, that's one of the reasons. Again, Marvel Future Revolution. I think that's one of the reasons why it went away. I think why sometimes you get that backlash here on Marvel Strike Force is because it's just not inherent in the game. So there's another Marvel game coming out. Marvel Mystic Mayhem is coming out, I think, next month, maybe at the end of this month. And again, it's not for me, but at least they're leading off with what the game's about, right? You're not going to get halfway through. You're not going to get to the end game. And then all of a sudden the content is going to switch. They're leading off with what the game is about, right? The main villain there is Nightmare. He's a demon. He has other of his demonic horde that are causing problems, and that's what you're fighting against. So again, that's kind of up to you, but at least they're leading off with what the game's about. Does that make sense? They're not changing it halfway through after you're already invested. So we refer back to our notes. That might be all the puzzle pieces. I just wanted to show you my roster. Again, if you had any thoughts or comments, we can take those. But I just wanted to show you my roster, because sometimes we're told that you're just going to lose the game and fear of missing out. And I just want to encourage you that is not the case. So as we look, right? So that's the top of my guys. I finally got a gear 20, first gear 20. Got Silver Sable. So I got one gear 20. So we're one step in to going after Professor X. We're one step in. But if we look at, let's see, what are these mythic characters? So here's all my mythic characters. And so as you see, we got Mephisto there. He's at level 1. Well, before him was Dormammu, right? So before him was Dormammu. And you see he's hanging out at level 1. And I survived the game, right? Survived the game. Do you have to make adjustments? You got to make adjustments. You got to use different characters. It just wasn't for me, right? Same thing with Mephisto. He's sitting there at level 1. Did I survive the game? Survive the game, right? Survive the game. And he was the dude for a year, bro. He's the dude for a year. We had to wait for Odin to show up to even really start getting strong counters. But it's fine because the game is deep. It has multiple game modes. Lean into the characters and things, the game modes that you're good at, and just keep going from there. It's don't worry about the fear of missing out. Don't compromise yourself, right? If it's not your way, I'm not right. If it is your way, it's your way. I'm not here to talk about what you should or shouldn't do. I'm just here today trying to encourage people that it's going to be fine. If it's not your way, we're going to be all right. So as always, you can just drop it in chat. Always here to encourage. You could hit me up in the Discord. I try to keep things encouraging because we need more of that. The world has enough negativity. We need more encouragement. And especially as men, we can do that for each other. But that's what we want to always encourage. If you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're an adult, you're just trying to get stuff done. You recognize that's what life's about. We just got to keep moving, getting it done. Right? No one is going to applaud you. No one's going to tell you that you did a good job as an adult. Right? It's just the victories, the silent victories you have to make for yourself that stack and compound that help you to grow yourself into the person that you need to be. So hopefully, message speak to you. You got a buddy. If you want to be encouraging, hit me up in the Discord. But it's summertime, so try to. It's raining out here for me right now, but it's summertime. Try to get out there and take care of yourself and your family. And we'll catch you later. Peace.